All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Tonight we're going to talk about Santa Barbara and the South Coast AVA for our Wines of California class. Sorry, this had to be recorded and posted. And if you hear any strange sounds in the background, it is storming pretty badly outside today. So that is most likely the rain and the wind. Let's get into it. Santa Barbara and the South Coast. This is our last section for Wines of California. Let's see what we have to learn. Santa Barbara County is the southernmost part of the Central Coast. This is the very last section before we go to South Coast. Just how it worked out when we divvied up the material. Santa Barbara is right there. The first vineyards were planted in 1782, and it's also where the famous movie Sideways was filmed. And that was released in 2004. So if you didn't see Sideways, you should see Sideways. It's actually funny. Paul Giamatti, the character that had a lot to say about wine, is a very passionate actor, has actually said that he really, in fact, in real life, does not know that much about wine. He's just following a script. It's just really funny how one actor, one movie, influenced wine sales and opinions about wine so intensely, right? So this movie single-handedly ruined the reputation of Merlot and instead boosted the sales of Pinot Noir instead. So this movie is often credited for doing that, which is crazy. Anyways, good movie. Check it out if you're interested. It takes place in Santa Barbara. There's 25 beaches in Santa Barbara County, and it stretches about 100 miles, and there's over 200 vineyards, which is really cool. A lot of them are available in a downtown area called the Urban Wine Trail, which is really nice. You can check out the tasting rooms there, and there's 7 AVAs within Santa Barbara County. So this includes, here in this little section, Santa Maria, Santa Rita, Ballard Canyon, Happy Canyon, Los Olivos District, Santa Ynez Valley, and Alisos Canyon AVAs. So all kind of clustered here together, right along the 101 and Pacific Coast Highway here. But as you can see, very close to the ocean, and we're going to see some cooler climates in general, right? So as far as climate and topography, it's Mediterranean, but very, very nice area. It's bordered by the Pacific Ocean in the west and in the south, because it kind of, the way that the landmass curves there. About 60 to 80 degrees year-round, and it's a longer growing season. So because lots of coastal fog and cool temperatures, it just requires a much longer growing season for the grapes to get fully ripe because of that. There's also, thankfully, a low average rainfall, so there's a lower risk of mildew than other regions, which is nice. And there's a really nice spectrum of terroirs, lots of hills and river valleys in this area. So lots of different aspects for vineyard planting to work with. So there's a pretty broad range. Santa Maria Valley is typically the cooler side, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir. And then when you get towards Happy Canyon of Santa Barbara, it's warmer. You get some of those Cabs, Syrah, and also Grenache plantings. So Santa Maria here up top, and then Happy Canyon is kind of the innermost AVA among these. So that kind of lines up, right? Cool. All right, Santa Maria. We got to try a Pinot Noir from this region last night, which was awesome. Known for the Santa Maria barbecue. We talked about this in class, which is a beef tri-tip. It's cooked over coals of native coast red oak, and there's also a specialized grill that they use for this type of meat. So lots of really delicious foods and culture in this area. There's overall low rainfall, mild temperatures, and loamy soils that drain very well in the area. So really good for Pinot and Chardonnay, of course. And this is one of the cooler of all of the regions of Santa Barbara. And we have a picture of Bien Nacido Vineyards right here. And it is gorgeous. Okay, moving on to Santa Ynez. Santa Ynez is fun. The town of Solvang is here. And it's a Danish-influenced town. Lots of really good food. And it's just a fun kind of cultural experience. But Santa Ynez Valley, as far as an AVA, is a broader AVA, contains Santa Rita Hills, Ballard Canyon, Los Olivos District, and Happy Canyon of Santa Barbara, so it contains all of those AVAs. The climate generally is much cooler in the west. and is suitable for like even botrytis wines and Riesling, if you wanted to make that. And then warmer regions are on the eastern side. So the most notable varieties from this area are Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Syrah. Okay, so moving into Happy Canyon, one of the warmer of the Santa Barbara regions. We have a lot of nutrient poor soils here with sand, clay loam, and even serpentine cobbles. So very well draining, but nutrient poor. There's a little bit of fog that burns off, but ultimately it can reach up to 90 degrees. So it gets quite warm in this area. Here we have some of these bolder reds like Petit Verdot, Merlot, Malbec, and Cabernet Franc, but also producing Cabernet Sauvignon and Sauvignon Blanc, which is nice. So, very nice region. Okay, on to Alyssos Canyon. So, now we are... Where are we on this map? Alyssos. Oh, here we go. 7. So, right in between these two chunks here, right here, Alyssos. Right here. So, where it says Los Alamos, this is Alyssos Canyon. So this is a fairly new AVA in Santa Barbara. It was established in 2020. 238 acres of grapes, and this is kind of the transition between the cooler north and the warmer south of Santa Barbara. Lots of calcium and sandstone and shale over here in the soil. They say, according to their websites, that this is claimed to create thicker skins on grapes, giving the wines more color, flavors, and tannins. So take that with a grain of salt. But that's what their marketing says. Lots of Rhone varieties in here, which is quite nice. So Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, Viognier. But they also do produce some of those Bordeaux like Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon. So could be very worthwhile. Cool. Another fun thing that happened in Santa Barbara is this brand called Ocean Fathoms. And this is where this company was taking wine and aging it in the ocean right off of the coast of Santa Barbara, and or right off the Channel Islands, excuse me. So wine from this region wine from this winery is very, very expensive, upwards of $350 per bottle last time I checked. But there are some interesting claims as to why the wine ages better in the ocean than it does in a cellar. And that's because, well, one, there's no oxygen or sunlight, right, deep in the water. It's a consistent cold temperature. They have claimed that rocking of the waves helps the wine in some way. And also, there's this whole marketing thing because the bottles become decorated by sea life. So it's pretty interesting. Call it what you will. But I do have two links here if you want to check out the YouTube video or in this article. They have like an AC/DC linked video to like them putting these crates of wine in the ocean. Interestingly enough, like other problems that they face by putting wine in the ocean is pirates, which is crazy. So like people could come out, and if they know where these wines are, could just take a ship and just take a crate of wine. Like that's a thing. So piracy. And then also another problem is, what else was I going to say? Oh, bottles breaking and marine life inhabiting the bottles. So they bring up these bottles and sometimes there's like an octopus hiding in there, or there's other creatures inside the cage with the bottles. So there is a debate, like if it's disrupting the sea life out there. But yeah, just an interesting little thing for you there. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up Santa Barbara. So now we're going to officially move south to the South Coast AVA. And this is, we're talking about regions like Ventura, LA, Orange, San Bernardino, Riverside, and San Diego. So here we have a nice map of Southern California and South Coast AVA. So this region covers from Ventura County through San Diego all the way to the Mexican border. And this is definitely another version of Mediterranean climate. It's hot and dry, but we have some cooling breezes from the ocean to make viticulture possible, right? So typical varieties, Zinfandel. And the latitude places the grapes grown in this region further south than any European wine region. It's actually closer to like Africa when you think about it that way. So quite hot. Okay, so let's start with Cucamonga. We're right here, right within the borders of San Bernardino. So it's San Bernardino and Riverside. It's east of LA. This used to be like one of the largest vineyard regions in California before, you know, the metropolis or like the city developments, urbanization of that whole Southern California area. So now it's been parceled out. There's just a handful of vineyards left in all of these suburbs. So just to give you an idea, in 1917, there were 20,000 acres planted in Cucamonga Valley. The start of Prohibition, this region was producing more grapes than Napa and Sonoma counties combined. And currently, there's less than 1,000 acres planted. So definitely a huge transformation in the landscape of what this land was doing, right, through history. Overall, this has a high desert climate, so it's warm. Summers often exceed 100 degrees. So it makes sense. Zinfandel, Old Vine Zinfandel would do well here. Port-style wines, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. Just being exposed to extreme heat, you're probably going to get some really ripe wines from this region. Okay, let's move into Los Angeles AVA. So even though when we think of LA, we probably think of the city life, there are vineyards in LA, which is really cool. The wineries that are there typically produce in small quantities. Those are not like the big wineries that we think of. In the late 18th century, the first grapes that were planted in LA were at a mission called San Gabriel Archangel by Junipero Serra. In 1833, the first European vines were planted here by a French settler named Jean-Louis Vins, and they were Cab Franc and Sauvignon Blanc from his home in Bordeaux, which is very cool. And then by the end of the 1800s, LA was the largest wine region in California, and Prohibition and urban expansion has decimated most of the vineyards. So it's very cool. So yeah, I mean, right before Prohibition, those were the three big regions. It was LA, it was El Dorado, and like Sonoma. Like those were the three big areas for wine. Okay. So kind of breaking up LA. So first major AVA region found within the Santa Monica Mountains, we have Malibu Coast AVA, and within Malibu Coast, we have Saddle Rock, Malibu, and Malibu Newton Canyon AVA. So you can see here. So this little section over here. These vineyards were planted right where the ocean meets the mountains. So they have really nice elevation. It's affected by coastal humidity, so 50 to 70% humidity on summer afternoons. So we have coastal Mediterranean climate, but warm, dry summers and cool, moist winters. So varieties that would do well here are varieties that would have lots of space in the cluster. So Cabernet Sauvignon would not be affected by that humidity, right? Less likely to get mildew. Syrah, Zin, Merlot, Chardonnay, also good varieties as well. And I have a couple links for you guys here. Cool. Okay, so the second major region is in this northeast section here. So this is the Antelope Valley of the High Desert AVA. So we just visited this first one, and now we're on to the second larger region. Within, or right next to it, we have Leona Valley and Sierra Pelona Valley AVAs. And this is pretty high elevation. It's at the southern border of the Mojave Desert, which is crazy. So 3,000 feet above sea level. This is a continental climate. So one of the few exceptions where most everything in this class is Mediterranean, except for here. It's all around very hot and dry. We have Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot, surprisingly Pinot Noir, Syrah, Merlot, and Zinfandel are produced here. So, yes, very intense. Okay, on to Temecula. Let's see if we have do we have a map of Temecula somewhere in here? Aha, here we go. Okay, so we're going south into Riverside. Temecula Valley, right here, right above San Diego. So Temecula is actually a lot of names across the United States are derived from Native American names. I think that's amazing. Like Texas, There's like, I think Wyoming is one. There's a lot of Native American influence. I think that's really cool. But anyways, Temecula is another one of them. It's a name for land of sunshine and mist, which is cool. So the mist in this region is thinner than the fog of Napa Sonoma, so it actually reflects sunlight rather than deflecting it from the vine. So that makes sense. So that's kind of, it's the, what's that effect called? Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. The Tyndall effect. I'll get back to you on that. Where all of the particles actually illuminate because there's the particles of water within a container. Anyways, okay. The latitude of this is 33 degrees north, so we're on the same level as Lebanon and Israel wine regions, which is really crazy when you think about it. Mediterranean, semi-arid climate, definitely a maritime influence happening. Here we see some other varieties like Tempranillo, Sangiovese, Syrah in both of our cabs. Generally speaking, these wines are known for having large, ripe tannins and riper flavors overall. Okay, and then last but not least, San Diego. So we're in the very, very southern part of California. We've made our long journey all over California in this class, right? So the viticulture that we see mostly takes place on the hills that run alongside the county. We have sub-AVAs, Ramona Valley and San Pasqual Valley, AVA. Here you go, San Pasqual is so tiny. And then Ramona is this box here. Moderate Mediterranean here. A lot of chaparral, which is like a low scrub. That's similar to Garrigue in Languedoc-Roussillon in France. And if you haven't heard about like Garrigue in France, it's like the combination of all of the shrubs that grow in that area impact the flavors and smells of the wine there. So think of like sage, basil, rosemary, thyme, and also if you have like herbs de Provence in your house, that is like Garrigue right there. It's all of the herbs that grow in Provence. So check that out. You can just buy the herbs at the grocery store. If you don't know what Garrigue smells like, just buy herbs de Provence. It's the same thing. Okay, what grows well here? Cab Sauv, Zin, Petit Syrah, and some Chardonnay. So some fun stuff. Okay, Ramona, so kind of zooming into this region, was established in 2006. They're known for their rich, heavy reds. It's definitely a region full of smaller boutique wineries, but there are over 60, and they sit around the edges of a bowl-shaped valley. Some of the vines are planted up to 1,400 feet in elevation. We have decomposed granite and red clay. Ultimately, it's pretty hot and dry. We feel the influence from the ocean, but also from the Colorado desert. Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, Merlot, Petit Syrah, and Sangiovese. All right. And then we have our learning objectives. Hooray! Awesome. Well, congratulations. You guys have officially made it to the end of Wines of California class. If you are interested in signing up for Wines of the Sierra Foothills, that is our next course. But otherwise, it's been a pleasure to have you guys. Good luck on your quizzes, and I'll be sure to see you guys around. Thank you so much.